Hi everyone, it's Steve at Wellbeing Education. What I want to do in this quick video is to give a few tips to help us think about how, when pupils return to school full-time in September, we can make that as positive an experience as possible. But just before I get into the details, I want to tell a really quick story. When our girl was 6 years old, she went to the opticians, she came back wearing glasses, and everyone who saw her for the first time was careful to say, "Wow, you look fantastic." And slowly but surely that smile sort of spread across her face. That is until we crossed the road to see our 90-year-old neighbour who clearly wasn't schooled in child psychology. She took one look at her face fell, she was all crestfallen, and she said, "Oh, you poor thing, how terrible for you." Well, we just whisked her out of there and, moved on as quickly as possible. But you can see the point that I'm making. As adults, the frame that we actually put around children's experiences can have a fundamental difference to their expectations of what's coming next. I mean, we see the opposite of that sometimes. If children are new or young starting school, quite often their parents and carers are there dropping them at the gate, and some of them are anxious about that, and they're saying, "Give me one more cuddle, don't worry, I'm sure everything will be fine." But that attempt to reassure can actually create a sort of transmissible anxiety there, and before you know it, they're saying, "I'll just wait 5 more minutes, I'll just keep waving, I won't go until you're inside," and before you know it, that child is reluctant to go into school. So with that in mind, I'm talking about how we frame children's experiences in this video, and I've got 4 really practical positive sentences to try and weave in, and maybe 4 sentences that the like of which could be, best avoided where possible. So the first positive thing that I'm expecting children to hear up and down the land from their teachers is, "I am so happy to see you." And I'm sure that will be true. I know I've missed a lot of face-to-face contact during lockdown, and people that I used to take for granted, I'm overjoyed to actually just have contact with them again. But when we say "I'm so happy," then we're setting the emotional weather for children, and we're giving them a positive emotion right out of the gate that they can latch onto. On the flip side of that, a phrase that I would avoid would be something like, "I know it's been difficult." Now we'll come back to projecting feelings later, but the reality is we don't know it's been difficult. Children will have had wildly different experiences, and we'll come down later in the list as to sort of how we learn about those experiences. But one thing we never want to say is, "I know it's been difficult," because we're taking all the space for any other possibility out of the conversation, and we're immediately focusing on the negative. So back over on the positive side then, I'd be asking questions, of course, but a lot of my questions would have a positive frame, such as, "What was the best thing that happened to you over the last 6 months or however long it's been?" Because again, there's an expectation there that we can find something, and we can help remember and reinforce those memories by drawing upon some of those positive experiences too. Something I would definitely try to avoid saying is along the lines of, "We're all going to find it difficult this term. We're all going to find it difficult with the new rules. It's going to be different for us all." Because again, that kind of brings a big cloud over not just what's happened already, but over what's going to happen next as well. So let's head back into the positive side, and instead I'd be looking for positive things to look forward to. What are you going to be doing this term? Have sentences like, I can't wait to do this with you. I can't wait to get outside," and whatever it is. So again, we're creating a real sense that there's optimism about the future and a lot of things that we're all going to enjoy together. So my third phrase to avoid then would be something along the lines of, "I know how you must be feeling." Now that's a phrase to avoid pretty much in all circumstances for 2 reasons. The obvious reason is we don't know how a child is feeling. So all children will have had wildly different experiences, and any one child's feelings will fluctuate endlessly throughout the day. So we never want to say, "I know how you must be feeling," because it creates an expectation, and again it sort of takes the oxygen out of the wider possibilities for all of their feelings as well. So my 4th and final positive phrase to focus on for now would be to think about yourself as well. Tell children stories. My favourite part of lockdown was, and they might be school related things that you've done online, etc., or it might just be domestic things. But by focusing on some of your own positive experiences, then again you're showing the children that that's a big wide open space that they can access within themselves as well. Now my final phrase to avoid would be relating to any new procedures and things that we've got. So if there are new regimes or distancing, etc., we want to avoid avoid saying things like, look, if you keep doing that, then we'll all have to, because if we're anxious about those new regimes ourselves, then sure enough, anxiety is a very transmissible condition and children will soon pick up on that. So we've got 4 really positive phrases to focus on there, but also 4 things to, you know, where possible, avoid. What I want to do is now come to the 5th phrase, which is kind of in the middle. Now, I recognise that children's experiences will be wildly different, and we don't want to sort of deny them the space to focus on anything that they want to think about, be it positive or less positive as well. So definitely my favourite phrase for circumstances like this is simply to ask children, how do you feel, or how have you felt about that, or is there anything that you'd like to tell me about this? And that's something that really needs to happen on a more individual basis, because as I say, every child's experiences will be wildly different, but hopefully it'll give you a little bit of important context to what's happened for them, and it'll show that whatever their feelings are, they're valid and important feelings as well. Okay, so there's just a few practical tips. I'm Steve at Wellbeing Education. I do staff training, I'm doing inset on a positive return to school, but I do everything in the sort of wellbeing, motivation, character building world. So if you want to find out more, it's www.wellbeingeducation.co.uk, and have a great return to school. Thank you.